Ah, excellent timing. Alan's here. Welcome to Cop On. Um, this is we're going live. Nigel is with me. Alan's just coming in. If we just hang on a moment, you might be able to tell from the image that this is a Mo Salah special, and you might be able to tell from the title of this stream. This is a Mo Salah special in tribute to the Egyptian king who has lit up our lives, who has, he's been, sort of a candle to any darkness that we've been feeling. He's been a more than a candle. He's been a roaring fire, a nice blaze, that you can sit next to, feel comfortable in. And he's an inspiration. I was delighted that he celebrated his 2 goals against Manchester United the other day by having chamomile tea, because so did I. And that makes me think of, how great minds think alike. Because I had chamomile tea and I also had a mint tea, because I don't drink alcohol. And it's the best way to celebrate is with a nice cup of tea. I've got a mint tea here because I'm ready to talk about Mo Salah, the Egyptian king. I'm with Nigel. I'm with Alan. Thank you very much for joining us, Nigel and Alan. Nigel, when you think, just as a kickoff, when you think of Mo Salah, do you get the same sort of bubbly joy feeling throughout your entire body as I do?
Absolutely, absolutely. He's just, you know what it's like. Anybody who supports football will know about this. It's just when you sign a new player, particularly a striker, you're always really hopeful. This could be the guy that gets us 20 goals a year, 25, 30 goals a year. Well, 6 years in a row for the one season wonder. You know what I mean? He's been absolutely unbelievable. I think he surpassed any expectations that any of us could have had when we signed him. He came into a team that already had Bobby and Sadio in there, and then he just scored on his debut against Watford, set up by Bobby, and just went on from there. Yeah, huge part of every Liverpool supporter's life at the moment, because he's just given us so much joy.
He really has. He really has. It's the joy. It's the joy is the word, isn't it? When you think of Mo Salah, Alan, what about you? I mean, there's a great answer by Nigel. What are your sort of feelings? Very similar, I imagine.
Yeah, hi guys. Sorry for being a bit late on.
That's all right. Perfect timing, really.
Yeah, Mo Salah Mo Salah warms my heart. Just not just what he does on the pitch, but what he does off the pitch. He's just a special type of person that we love in our club. My memories of Mo start 2014 season that we nearly won the league, when we were after Mo, and as everyone remembers, we had Gillette and Hicks, who had this habit of trying to negotiate. I always remember the fee for Mo was supposed to be 11 million, and we went in and did our usual stuff. We offered 8.5, then up to 9, then 9.5. And that, if everyone remembers, that's the season we were fighting to win the Premiership. And I always remember Chelsea, Jose Mourinho just went in and bought Salah. They didn't go in and offer it 11 million. They just walked in and paid 13 million for him. And that hurt me because I really wanted Salah at that stage. So when he came back a few years later, I was delighted. I remember his first few games, and I remember in the 2017-18 season, myself and my 2 kids, my daughter, who was very young at the time, went over to that wonderful match against Arsenal, and I remember Mo scored that fantastic goal. I think it was the 4th goal. He just outside our own box, he headed the ball down despite one of the Arsenal players having a boot up real high. He went the length of the pitch, scored that fantastic goal up in the Annie Road end. And so this is a real special place in my heart for him, because that was the first day I turned around looking at my 2 kids together, looking at a match. And I love the chap ever since. I love everything he does. so many memories of him, just so many memories of him. He's unbelievable. Like we all have. He's just unbelievable.
Excellent stuff. But did you say 13-14? We had Gillett and Hicks. It was FSG back then as well.
Sorry,
right?
my apologies.
Yeah.
Apologies. Yeah, at the start of their
Start of the reign. Yeah,
still
a couple of years into it.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. We all make mistakes. Speaking of mistakes, in the last episode, I made a couple of mistakes myself because we were talking about it gets too many when you talk about Mo Salah goals, exactly. And we weren't quite sure about how many he's actually got. So to clarify, if anyone listened to our last episode or watched our last episode, Liverpool's all-time top goal scorers in all competitions, because they're the ones that really count. If you forget the Premier League, as Fergus was saying, it's only 30 years old, whereas our history goes back to 1896 and before, as Manchester United fans know. That was the last time we scored 7 past them. But Liverpool's all-time top goal scorers are Ian Rush, number 1. 346 goals in 660 appearances. Roger Hunt got 285 goals. Gordon Hodgson, 241. Billy Liddell, 228. Stephen Gerrard, 186. Robbie Fowler, 183. And now Mo Salah, just 5 goals behind Robbie Fowler on 178. But the key thing for me is goals per games ratio, or games per goals, if you prefer. So games per goals ratio, Ian Rush, for example, with his 346 goals, is 1.91 games per goal. Roger Hunt, 1.73. Gordon Hodgson is the best, with 1.56. He scored every 1.56 games for Liverpool. Gordon Hodgson, what a legend. But he was playing 120 years ago. Football was a little bit different. Billy Liddell, 2.34 games per goal. Stephen Gerrard, 3.82. Robbie Fowler, 2.02. And Mohamed Salah, 1.63. So in modern football, he's way ahead of everybody. Ian Rush, let's say modern football started in the 60s, if you want to be generous, and Roger Hunt, he's way ahead of him. He's ahead of everybody apart from Gordon Hodgson, and that is incredible. So he broke Robbie Fowler's Premier League record, having played 61 games less, and he's in all competitions, he's 78 games less than Robbie Fowler, but only 5 goals behind him. It's absolutely extraordinary. He's got 20 goals every season since he joined, so in 6 seasons. I think that's a record for Liverpool, but I'm not sure. There were too many records.
Ian Rush as well, Owen.
Ian Rush did that as well.
There were
Also
only 2.
6 seasons. Okay, yeah.
They're the only 2 in the club's history.
Wonderful stuff, because we'll talk about it as we go on. But let's go through Mohamed Salah at Liverpool. Let's start when he signed. I just need to find the right place on my document here. So, yeah, basically I'm going to go through Wikipedia, which is full of the great goals and records as he goes through. And it starts with his first season at Liverpool, 2017-18. And Nigel, I'm just going to say off the bat, you said before nobody expected him to achieve what he has achieved. Yes, that's true. You can hope that someone's going to come in and score 20 goals in their first 6 seasons. But, how did you feel? Do you remember when Mo Salah signed?
You know how it goes. It's just you sign a striker, and you're hoping. I hope this guy is really, really good. Like, we'll be looking back at it, and you're thinking about, like, we all knew he played with Chelsea for a few games. I think he scored 1 Premier League goal for Chelsea. And
1 or 2. I think it was 13 appearances and 2 goals.
2 goals, something like that, right? And you'd seen him playing with Fiorentina. You always we have a new signing. Let's watch what he does. And you see him playing for Fiorentina, and he looks a quick player. Looks like he's got good touch, can finish. You'll always hope with a striker. Yeah, he might get 20 goals for us next season. But
and Roma too. Sorry to butt in, and Roma too. Remember, he was at Fiorentina and Roma on loan, and then he joined them permanently. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, just you're hoping he might score us a few goals. Our new, they're saying our new striker, but he's not. He's never been a striker. He's always said he's a winger. You know what I mean? Let's just hope this guy's good. Well, he's good.
He's all right. Absolutely. So yeah, you were full of hope. I'm delighted that Brian's here as well. Brian, you've popped in for a chat about Mo. Absolutely fantastic. Brian, what what were your feelings? Do you remember were you like I was, like on YouTube looking at his compilations for Roma and getting very excited with his link up with Edin Dzeko?
Yeah, I remember when we were linked with him first, and Chelsea basically stole him from us, and I was really excited about that link up initially. And I also remember that football pundit, Nina, I can never pronounce her second name. She can be easy on the eye at times. And I remember her slagging him off, going, "Oh, it's a terrible signing, and he's not going to do anything. He didn't pull up any trees over in Italy." But yeah, no, I remember thinking I like the look of him. The same way, thinking I like the look of Connor Cody. Not Connor Cody. Is that Connor Cody? Yeah. But yeah, I remember he's a good signing, and I thought he'll do just nicely. I thought it was a solid signing at the time. I didn't think he was going to turn out to be this signing, but I definitely thought he's a good addition to the squad.
Well, totally. I mean, are you thinking of Mina Rizuki? I'm trying to think. The journalist you're thinking of, is it Mina Rizuki? Because I don't know.
Yeah, she does European football.
Okay, yeah, she's on ESPN and CNN.
That's right. I'm giving away my taste in women a little bit there, but
that's okay. I don't know who she is, but I'm sure she's very, very attractive. Well done, congratulations.
She was 10 years ago. I'm not sure. I haven't seen her for a while, so I don't know.
Well, okay. I mean, all right, fair enough. But this is International Women's Day. Let's
absolutely
judge her on her content of her words and what she says compared to how she looks.
She's a good journalist, actually.
She's a good journalist, but she got it completely wrong with Mo Salah.
She did.
A lot of people did.
She's a bad journalist that day.
Yeah, well, that's it. A lot of people were getting it wrong, though, weren't they, Alan? Do you remember, like, all the people who were like, "Well, he's a flop at Chelsea, so therefore he would be a flop at Liverpool." I thought at the time that was a ridiculous thing, because he'd had 2 or 3 years away with Fiorentina, Roma on loan, and then Roma in a permanent deal. I thought that was a ridiculous comparison to compare him to, like, whenever he was like 20 years old at Chelsea. We were signing a completely different player, weren't we?
Exactly, yeah. He was a young player. As you said there, he only got about 13 games or something for Chelsea. Chelsea are quite famous for having young, talented players and not using them correctly, especially under Mourinho. But it was also this thing in the media all the time, "Oh, Chelsea flop, Chelsea flop." Like, how many 20-year-olds play 10 or 12 games for a team? They're not flops. So I never believed that. As I said, like Brian, I liked him before Chelsea got him. I liked him after it. So unfortunately, lots of the media-driven stuff, like, when people hear things all the time on TV and stuff, "Oh, Chelsea flop, Chelsea flop," it sinks into people's minds, like, But if you look past that, he always had the talent. He always had the drive, and you could see the hunger in him. So yeah, I was delighted. Like Brian said, I was delighted when we signed him, because I just had that affection for him from before. And of course, I didn't expect him to score what he scored in the first season, or to continue scoring that many. But what a player! Like, just, I don't know, it's just, like you said, he tingles my heart when I think of him. Just everything. He's just fantastic.
Absolutely. Totally, absolutely. I mean, Gary Richards is in the chat. Tally ho, Gary. He says Salah is a modern day great, and he really is. And this is how you start being a modern day great is, so he signed on the 22nd of June 2017. He at that time, he was our record signing. He signed for an initial 36.5 million. So we finally got the hoodoo of Andy Carroll off the bat, which felt like a bit of a hoodoo. It felt like a bit of a, every time I looked at record signings from different clubs, and it was always like, oh man, it just reminded me of what a poor decision that was, like absolutely terrible decision that probably ultimately contributed, was the major contributing factor into Damien Comolli losing his job. But anyway, so he took the number 11. If you remember, it was previously worn by Bobby Firmino, and Bobby took the 9. And Mo took 11. And, they say it takes a while to get used to the pace of the Premier League. This is one of these, these cliches in football that are not true. It depends on the player. And how about this for taking a while to settle in? So he scored on his debut against Watford. And in many ways, this kind of goal, in the 3-3 against Watford, if you remember, awful defending. Mignolet was in goal. I remember it was we should have won that game pretty easily. But if you remember, it was Bobby Firmino who had this sort of, it was kind of a shot. It was a looping over the goalkeeper, and Mo Salah just sped in and tapped home from 1 yard. It's a very memorable goal, that. And Nigel, I think in a way that sums up, that's one of my favourite Mo Salah goals, because what it does is it's very indicative of how intelligent his movement is, that even though Bobby got his lobbed shot slightly wrong, it was going slightly wide, Mo Salah is always there, ready on the last, on the shoulder of the last defender, and sprinting past them to mop up these kinds of chances. You see it. Keep an eye on him. I do it every game. You keep an eye on Mo Salah's movement. Whenever a player is having a shot from around the edge of the area who isn't Mo Salah is there on the other side of the box, ready to sprint into any rebound. And part of that is indicative of his incredible game intelligence, isn't it, Nigel?
Absolutely. Just a little aside for one moment. The first number I ever wore when I played competitive football was number 11. It's always been my number down the years. So that's, I've been waiting for a Liverpool player who, a big name, number 11, so I can get it on my shirt and walk.
You didn't have Albert Riera?
Yeah, I don't think Albert Riera had Albert Riera. Just when you mentioned that goal against Watford, and the fact that he always does it, he did it on Xherdan Shaqiri's debut against Southampton. If you remember the free kick, it hit the crossbar, and Mo was in on it to knock it into the net. He did it against Crystal Palace, and kind of ended up in the back of the net, like a fish in the back of the net, and he hit against, I think, one of the, I can't remember who was it. I think we might have won the game 3-2, and he did one of those as well. So yeah, it's always, if you look down the years, there's always at least one a season. I think he's done that, following in shots or following in chances in case there's a deflection or a hit the post or a spill by a goalkeeper. He's always there lurking around. But if you look down the years, like, there's so many different types of goals. It's everything. It's like headers for not a big guy, curled shots, tap-ins, long-range missiles, everything. So yeah, what a great player he's been for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, he really does everything. You're absolutely right. So he scored. He followed it up with his first goal at Anfield. Was 12 days after that against Hoffenheim. 12 days after Watford against Hoffenheim, and we remember that really crucially important qualifier. So we won that game 4-2. We had a 6-3 aggregate win against Hoffenheim. So after 3 days after scoring his first goal at Anfield, this is still in his first month. He scored and assisted a goal in the 4-0 victory over Arsenal. And Alan, you said you were there. You were there at the ground.
I was at both games. Yeah.
Oh man,
We did
Amazing.
kind of a family trip. My daughter Sarah was quite young, so myself and my son Adam went to the Hoffenheim game. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant night. And then on the weekend we went to the Liverpool game. So yeah, and the interesting thing as well about that is everyone knows me by now. I'm a people watcher, and like that was early on in Mo's career, and the whole game, Klopp was on the sideline, going up and down, calling Mo over, telling him where to go, where to do, go to this position, go to that position, and you could see you could see straight away that his character, he was listening, yes boss, whatever, going to do what he was told. And yeah, that game was just fantastic. And when you see a player in the flesh, you see the camera's not following him all the time. So you see he's off the ball and runs. You see him, pointing where he wants the ball and stuff. And just them games looking at him, you just knew what he confirmed what you'd hoped, that he was a special type of player, like. And the atmosphere, like when he got the ball, it was just electric. It's one of those players that, like Darwin now, comes to our club and the fans just take from instantly. Like, it was just fantastic. And yeah, so we're quite lucky to see him early on in his days, myself and Adam, and Adam is a good football knowledge and stuff, and he was saying straight away, like, this guy's going to be special. He had more confidence than I had, to be honest. Don't tell him that. Yeah, so very lucky to see him in those few games. And as I said, it was the character off the ball that you could spot as well, like, that listening to Klopp. And I think the other beautiful thing about Mo as well, as we all know, is he's so placid on the pitch. He doesn't get involved in rows or pushing or shoving or screaming. He just does his job. And I think that makes him better, because defenders that normally rough a fella up and try and get a reaction just can't get one out of him. It's just a beautiful person.
That's a really good point about his character. He's been booked 5 times in his career. 4 of them are for taking his shirt off, as he did in that image that
And
we've got on screen. It's funny, of course. That famous stat from the other day, the 7-0 against Manchester United at Anfield. In case anybody missed it, Liverpool beat Manchester United 7-0, and Mo Salah scored 2 goals and he made 2 goals, and he was the man of the match. I thought that was really the best performance I've seen him play for Liverpool. But there are so many; it could be recency bias. But I thought he was just unplayable. The only thing you could do was try and foul him, as I said the other day. But yeah, going back to when he first joined, Hannah was so right to talk about his character. He's got the humility. One thing I know a little bit about is music, because I played music professionally for 1.5 years or 2 years, and but I've played it all my life, and I've met loads of musicians. And in the music world, you find loads of people who think they are, the nads of the dog, the testes of the wolf, and they are not. And the best musicians are always, without exception, let me be 100% clear about this, without exception, modest about what they can do and how they do it. If you say, you meet someone like, my friend's dad, he accompanied Jose Carreras, the amazing tenor, and he was really an incredible musician, stuck on the island of Jersey, being a music teacher and a piano teacher. But he accompanied Carreras. He could play any style. He could listen to something, immediately play it. If it's a Chopin nocturne, if it's Bach, he was one of the most amazing musicians I've ever met. And to speak to him, you'd be like, that was incredible. He'd be like, oh, no, absolutely not. Anyway, who's for a cup of tea? Changing the subject because he just didn't want to talk about it. Mo Salah's the same, Brian. His character has been amazing.
Yeah, he is. But I think Nigel wanted to say something. He had his hand.
Oh, excuse me. I was
Yeah.
busy in
You're
my
like
reverie.
pontificating about music.
My
And,
nostalgia, got the
Very,
better of
very
me. I got
brief.
completely out of the present. Nigel, what do you want to
Very
say?
briefly, Mo Salah has been booked more times than Man United have scored against us since 2018, I think.
Excellent. Love
They've
that.
scored one goal. Mo's been booked twice for taking his shirt off.
Absolutely magnificent. Magnificent. So Brian, I mean his character is incredible. The
oh
relentlessness of the
yeah,
guy.
I mean you could see that he's unusual as a striker in the modern game. You know, because you listen to anybody and they'll tell you strikers have to be a little bit. They have to be arseholes in order to be successful. They have to be, and he has got that killer instinct. But it was very obvious from early on that he was a different type of football player, very modest. There's a gentleness about him, and he has got edge without having gnarl, which is very rare. You don't see that very often. Like, you know, when he crosses the line, that he's there to win and he's going to give it everything. But he's not trying to injure people. He's not trying to, you know, slap him in the nuts, get a rise out of them, whatever. And yeah, I mean, I've been incredibly proud to say that he's our star striker all this time, you know, and he represents what we're all about. You know, the more players that we have like that in our team, it makes you walk a little bit taller. It makes you your head raise a little bit higher, because particularly with the fans who are not from Liverpool itself, I mean, it's more of an idea that you attach to, you know, the Liverpool way and the decency and the working class roots of a club. And he's just an honest guy, and he puts in a shift. And now he's gone from being a brilliant player to a legend to now, you know, looking at that picture that you've got there side, he's an iconic player. You know, and there's very few of those. There's very few club legends, but there's very few players that are truly iconic. And when people think back of these years in the Premiership, the first name that will come to their mind is Mo Salah. You know, and these are not Liverpool fans. You know, he's done it with being a nice guy the whole time. Never seen him lose the rag once. You know, yeah, what a guy! Just what an amazing guy.
Great answer, absolutely. And going back to his first season, you know, we were just, I mean, we only got as far as October when you know, he scored twice in a 7-0 Champions League win over Maribor, which was our joint largest ever away win in the competition at the time, and now we've since equaled it against Spartak Moscow, I believe. But and then on the 26th of November, he scored the opener against Chelsea, but he refused to celebrate, partly out of respect for his former team, Chelsea. Again, a respectful guy, but also it was because it was a tribute to the victims of the North Sinai mosque attack that had happened 2 days previously. And as an icon for Islam, and you know, in a world where there is a lot of anti-Islamic press and Islamophobia around the world, he is someone who is an icon and someone who can, you know, just absolutely negate all of the ridiculous, like, you know, fear-mongering stories that go around, because he's someone who you would love to, you know, I don't know, go have a cup of tea with. You know, I keep going back to cups of tea, but it's one of my favorite things. And flying through that season, of course, that season he scored 44 goals, and there is only one player, 43 goals, I think, in all comps, and there is only one player. It's always apart from Ian Rush. He scored, that was the most in all competitions that any player in Liverpool's history since 1892 has ever done. You know, back when you played 7 players up front and you were just lumping it up front, and each game finished 5-2. He scored. You know, no one had ever managed that. So what a record! And just to put it in context, I had it somewhere. Yes, Robbie Fowler's best ever total in all competitions in a single season was 36 goals, and Fernando Torres was 33, and Mo Salah got 43 that season. And I don't know, Nigel, like the thrill of watching Mo Salah, knowing you're going to watch Mo Salah play and watch Mo Salah score. Obviously, that season ended in real heartbreak because he deserved a lot more from that season. Football can be cruel.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so he's had some bad luck, like with apart from the Ramos thing. Do you remember he got injured against Newcastle? I think it was. He scored a goal and ended up getting carried off on a stretcher and missed a game or two, I think, a few seasons ago. I think it was his last goal that season. He scored a ball kind of knocked in at the back post at a kind of an awkward angle, but he got carried off on a stretcher. So he's had some bad luck. The Ramos thing was the worst, obviously. I mean, that was, no one will ever not convince me that wasn't a deliberate, that was a judo hold, and it basically pulled his shoulder out of the socket, and it took him a little while. The World Cup, I think, the World Cup qualifiers that he was in kind of affected him a little bit as well. It took him a while to come around after that, but for the most part, he's just been going for, like, we're Liverpool fans and we watch him all the time and we watch him game by game. But like, we've got to think as well of his Egyptian, what he does for Egypt as well. He qualified Egypt for that World Cup and scored 3 goals in the competition and was still feeling the effects of the Ramos thing. He scored a penalty, I think, and scored a lob, and he scored 3 goals anyway, I think, in the competition, but didn't quite look as sharp as after his shoulder injury that he could have, I suppose, but obviously through no fault of his own. He just never, there's no complaints, like the lads were saying earlier on, there is just no complaints of him. He just gets on with it. And the lack of protection he gets from referees. Remember, we haven't had a penalty in a year. That's the current stat. We haven't had a penalty in a year. And Salah gets triple and quadruple teamed every week. Gets hammered. Look at Martinez with the forearm smash in the face on Sunday. No free kick, no booking. Game after game after game after game. You've got to look at that stat. I'd love to see somebody going back on all our games over the previous few years and see how many times he was actually fouled when he didn't get a foul, because I'm sure it's one of the highest totals in football history. I'd say he's been absolutely hammered down the years there. Lads kicking him and nothing. So and never says a word. Just gets up, scores a goal, and does what's in the picture.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for the audio listeners, the picture they put on screen is one that Mo Salah posted himself. He was obviously delighted to have broken Robbie Fowler's record and to do it against the Manx. And the photo is him. It sort of looks like he's levitating. It looks like he's taking off from the Anfield turf, having already discarded his number 11 shirt, and he's absolutely delighted to have scored. And this kind of thing, it's a brilliant point, Nigel. The amount of times, I mean, I was surprised because actually Andy Madley gave a free kick up for a foul on Salah, and in the first couple of minutes of the match, and I was like, oh, people actually see it now. But then, of course, he didn't give the obvious, forearm to the face, which is fucking ridiculous. To not, especially right in front of the assistant. I mean, that's just shocking. So who knows why? Maybe it's linked to the Islamophobia that goes around. Maybe it isn't. But he's definitely you know, maybe it's an anti-Liverpool thing because a lot of the refs are from Manchester. I don't know if there's a conspiracy or not, but he certainly doesn't get his fair treatment of fouls. You know, he doesn't whinge, he doesn't scream and things like that. Alan, what would you like to say?
Yeah, sorry, Owen, you just said it there in the end. I was just going to say it's because he doesn't whinge or cry or run the ref or scream or go on like a Jack Grealish rolling around like he's after being shot by 4 different assassins.
Yeah, or Bruno Fernandes holding his face with a push to the chest.
I was actually sitting in the pub the other day for the first time in a long time looking at the game, and I ended up sitting beside 2 Manchester United fans who were quite nice lads, fair play to them. And with that elbow in Mo's face, you know, obviously me and a few other Liverpool fans were saying that's a clear foul. And one of the Man United guys beside me, Stephen, I think it was, said, "My God, imagine if that happened to Fernandes, he'd be rolling around." And then later on the game, Fernandes going and rolling around, yellow card for Fabinho. It's the difference. Yeah, Mo's nice.
Happens all the time.
Yeah,
happens all the time, and they know it. The professionals know it. I mean, you know, but like Conor Gallagher last night in Chelsea versus Dortmund, you know, there was Dortmund had an amazing break on. He chucked himself to the floor and screamed, and he got a free kick. And all of the replays show that there was absolutely no contact. But he just, you know, he you know, jumped like a salmon and, you know, flopped to the floor and screamed and rolled around, and the ref gave a foul. It's difficult for the refs because, you know, there are so many contacts that are genuine, but there are so many that aren't. And I think, you know, something needs to be done about that. It's absolutely ridiculous. But Mo Salah doesn't, you know, degrade himself to that level. He's just always on this super, you know, wonderful like character, beautiful attitude. And he's all about scoring goals and playing. And if they can do whatever you want, but you're not going to stop him. The 18-19 season, we have to sort of rifle through the season. So we've only got about 20 minutes left. But the 18-19 season, he was, of course, the European champion, and he won his 2nd Golden Boot in 2 seasons. You know, he started the season, if you remember, signing a new deal on the 2nd of July, 2018. And Jurgen Klopp said that the news was important as a statement of intent in terms of Liverpool's status in the football world. And he's been a huge part of lifting the status of Liverpool, hasn't he, Brian?
Yeah, and it's good that you bring that up, because actually I think that's probably the most important moment I would even go as far as saying even more important than winning the European Cup. Because that's, in my memory, that's the first time we've had a global superstar on our hands who did not go and sign for another team. Or, you know, the only one I could think of is Steven Gerrard. But, you know, there was a time even Steven Gerrard, Liverpool lad, you know, born and bred, like very close to signing for Chelsea, because there was a big part of him knew that he had to, if he wanted to kind of you know, reach his goals in football, in the footballing world. But thank God, you know, that his heart ruled over his head. But that was a real statement of intent, because you know, Jurgen Klopp, when he came, he said we have to make the fans believe again, and we have to make Liverpool a destination, not a stopping point. And that's what he did. You know, and Mo Salah was the beginning of all of those brilliant players, you know, that we've all enjoyed over the past how many years. And they've all, you know, that's one thing that the modern football fan kind of forgets sometimes, I think. Present company excluded. But, you know, the people who are kind of tapping away on the keyboards and saying, where is this, where is that? We have not lost a player for God knows how long now. All of these amazing players have all signed extension after extension after extension. And that's why we've won so many things. That's why we had so many amazing nights. And for me, that was a huge moment in Liverpool history. Because as a fan, because I started following Liverpool seriously in the Spice Boys days. My timing wasn't great, And I remember thinking the frustration for me was we'd always have these amazing players and they would always get nicked. They would always go on somewhere else, and there was always this feeling, God, if they could all just stay together for a couple of seasons, could you imagine how much fun it would be if that player hadn't left and this player hadn't left? And maybe if we just got 4 of them together for one season, how much fun would we have? And now we've had all of them together, the whole starting 11, and he was the beginning of that. And it'll go down as a very important moment in Liverpool history. The fact that he said, "No, I'm not going to Real Madrid. I'm not going to Barcelona. I'm staying right here," and it was a real turning point for Liverpool.
It's a brilliant answer, absolutely. Because I think it was Steve McManaman back in those days, wasn't it, who set a precedent by buggering off to Real Madrid in his prime. Now that we know what he's like on commentary, then you can sort of question what goes on in his mind anyway. But that sort of set a precedent, and it was a bad precedent. Michael Owen did it, of course, even though he wasn't the player that he was. He was already past his prime by the time he joined Real Madrid, but still the idea was there that it's okay to leave Liverpool. Xabi Alonso did it. There were 3 massive ones, and then of course Luis Suarez to Barcelona. Absolutely 4 huge players for us who buggered off, and most of them, I don't know. Steve McManaman, if he had his time again, would he be able to think about put it into context and decide if he made the right choice or not? I don't know. But anyway, in that year, 18-19, he won the Puskás Award for arguably what wasn't his best goal of that season, let alone anyone else's season, for that goal against Everton. But he loved that goal. Apparently, he said that was his favourite goal for Liverpool because it won the Puskás Award and because it was against Everton. Lovely stuff. He scored tons of goals against Everton and against Manchester United. He's our top ever scorer against Manchester United with 12 goals. As Gary said in the chat, he really set the pace on Sunday. Absolutely. But in 18-19, of course, we ended up winning the Champions League. Along the way, he broke loads of records. He became, for example, against Red Star Belgrade on the 24th of October that season, he scored twice, as he does. And his second goal was his 50th for the club, and he was the fastest player in Liverpool history to reach the half century of goals, 50 in 65 games only. And he follows it up. He scores a hat-trick against Bournemouth on the 8th of December, which moved us to the top of the league table. Of course, we ended up just missing out that season, despite everything. I mean, we won 26 games that season, which was our Premier League record equaling. And we lost out by a point, and that disappointment was gone in the Champions League final against Tottenham. That penalty, Nigel. What do you remember when he took it? I couldn't watch. I mean, he was as cool as a cuke, but I couldn't watch.
Oh, I remember it really well. Yeah, we were up in the pub. There was a big crowd up there that night, and we got the penalty, and you just knew when he lined it up. Had absolutely no doubt whatsoever he was going to score, and I had 20 quid on him to score the first goal. So he was 3-1. I remember that night, and I got double odds on it as well.
Nice.
So, yeah, it was great. It was just probably the worst score that could have happened to Spurs that night was Salah, because he just gives everybody a huge lift when he scores. It's like the lad said earlier on, iconic player. If people are around the word Liverpool FC is mentioned, if it's not Klopp as the face of Liverpool, it's Mo Salah. That's just the way it is. He means so much to everybody. He's definitely the on-field face of the club, so to speak, at the moment. It was great. It was to see him with that trophy that night after what he'd gone through the season before with Ramos was amazing stuff.
It was beautiful. Redemption, absolute redemption, poetic redemption. And you know, that season, I mean, it was crazy. It was the second fastest Champions League final goal in history after Paolo Maldini in 2005. And then he was nominated. I mean, he hasn't even won a Ballon d'Or. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know who makes these decisions. Yes, I do. They're French journalists, and they, you know, if they're just not watching enough Liverpool games. It's clear enough. On the 2019-20 Premier League was the season when we won the league, and Salah played a huge part in that. For me, the most iconic goal of that season for the Premier League campaign, because I think, for example, Bobby Firmino's goal when we won the FIFA Club World Cup was also an iconic goal. But of course, it was the one against Man United, Alan. That one, I also. Oh, Nigel's holding up. He's got a framed photo of Mo Salah celebrating that goal again with his top off, revealing his 6-pack, his 12-pack, his 24 buy 2 get 1 free pack, and it's a beautiful picture, Nigel. That was the only time. I mean, the other day against Manchester United, I ended up dropping my trousers and running around my flat. But sorry for too much information.
No pictures of that, I hope.
Pardon?
Wait.
Pictures of that, I hope.
No, what?
Oh, right there.
No
You
pictures of
scored
that.
and you took your trousers off
picture
and
of
ran
that.
around the flat.
No, yes, I did. Yes, it was after Salah's right foot volley that smashed in off the crossbar. It was so
Very
fucking glorious.
interesting, Owen.
I just dropped my trousers, and I almost fell over my trousers because they were around my ankles. But anyway, this goal against Manchester United, when it was the 2-0, when you know, that amazing red sky at night, Anfield. I took my top off and I was twirling it around my head. And at that time, I lived in a studio flat. So, I mean, the other day, nobody saw me running around, you know, bollock naked. Well, no, just bottom half naked. But, you know, when I was twirling my shirt around my head for the 2-0 game for Salah's goal, my girlfriend was there because we lived in a studio flat, and she drew a cartoon of it because she was so amused by my reaction. Because she doesn't even like football, she doesn't get it. But there you go. So, Alan, do you remember this goal?
Oh, God. Yeah, first I have to get the picture of you on my head first.
Yeah, sorry, too much information.
You were swinging your trousers around this time, were you?
Well, yeah, no, that's the next time. That's when we beat them 8-0. That's the next time.
Yeah, that goal. Yeah, the minute you spoke for that season, I knew that was the goal you were going to mention, because it's the time we were spending so much time, you know, trying not to say we're going to win the league, but that goal was the moment. I think everybody that moment celebrated the league, even though it was still early on the season. But yeah, that's iconic. Like this, you can see it. I can see it, the goal from start to finish. Now I can see him run up the pitch. I can remember the excitement. I can remember feeling, never doubting he was going to score. You know, it wasn't one of those 50-50s where will he score, will he not. You just had that feeling he's going to bury this. And that's it. And then when he buried it and took off his top and just celebrated, like that, it's one of those memories that's going to be in our lives, every Liverpool fan's life, iconic for the rest of our lives. Like there's so many goals. I was trying to think about there this morning about his great goals, and there's so many. But the two that stick out to me is the one against Man City the year where he lobbed the keeper as a great goal, and the Man United goal. That Man United goal. There were big statement goals. You know, he made a statement with that goal that, you know, we're Liverpool, we're here, we're going to win the league. And as you said, he's so modest, as we've said already. So for him to rip off his top like that is making a statement, you know, and no words. He doesn't need any words. Just make that statement and be humble again, and that's it.
So would you say they're your two favourite Salah goals then? The one against City and the Man United ones? Or are there more that you absolutely loved?
Well, yeah, and that goal in the Arsenal game that I've saying about that we were in the
Yes.
stadium, that is my
Yes.
most memory, I suppose, for personal reasons. But yeah, that Man United goal is number one in my memory. And
Excellent.
again, the City goal, he's had better goals than that lob. But it was the moment, the game, the time he scored. It's just a moment in time. Yeah.
Totally. We've only got a few minutes left. I mean, I was going to go through all of his career until now. There's too much to talk about because he's broken too many records. I'm just going to ask you about your own personal sort of favorite moment. So, Brian, what about you? Favorite, Mo Salah goals? Would it be those?
Well, I don't know why it was called Cody Gakpo, Connor Gakpo earlier, but
Cody, I promise you, Cody Gakpo. At least you're not calling him Gapco, which is what.
Okay.
No, Gakpo. It's not a store.
Gapco. Okay.
No,
your
you're
man.
saying it.
Let's call him your man.
No, it's easy. Repeat it. Gakpo.
Voilà.
Voilà.
There we go. That's
well done.
Anyway, when Connor scored that goal
Cody.
at the weekend,
Cody, not
you
Connor.
know what? I was so excited. I took my pants off and I stuck my arse in a warm oven. Honest to God. I was like, my wife was like, what are you doing? It's like, Connor just scored. It's amazing.
Cody, not Connor.
Cody just scored. No, but that goal was as much as about Salah as it was about Cody. Because the way he turned that player inside out was like peak Mo. And that's what I don't know if but that's when I'm watching with my buddy, that's what we think about when we think about Mo. We don't want to see him out there in the in the middle of nowhere. We want to see him in the box, just turning people inside out. Anytime he gets the ball, I always scream, on toast, Mo. Go, just make him want to never play football ever again. And the amount of times I've seen him over the years, just was it the City game, the City goal that he scored where there was like he put 3 players on their arse and then just scored.
He did that a few times, against City, against Napoli, against with Koulibaly. He did it against.
I think
Watford.
the City game was the one that really meant something to me because City were supposedly the peak, the best around, and he just made them look like fools, and then just popped it in, and then he did it again the week later. I think he went through a phase of just scoring the most amazing goals week in, week out.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. And you just laughed at the time. You're thinking, what am I watching here? This is amazing. We've had some amazing players over the years. I think of Suarez, and peak Suarez. He did things with the ball you just like wow. And he's in that category. He's in the wow category. When he's in the mood, he just pulls things out and makes things happen. And I can't think of a better assist than the one for Cody at the weekend. I can't think of a goal where you're talking as much about the person who assisted it, and it wasn't a cross as that goal. It was unbelievable. And then, just the way that the two of them linked up, the whole goal, it's just a beautiful thing. So, but if I had to pick one, I'd be City.
City, I like it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's really good.
And I recommend for the next goal, if it's a special one, stick your arse in the oven. You'll know what it's all about.
Very good advice, sage advice from Brian there. Yes, do try that at home. Make sure the oven's not on. And Nigel, what about you? Favorite Mo Salah goal or moment?
Obviously that one. Just on the outskirts of this.
Sorry for the audio listeners. When you say that one, Nigel's holding up his framed photo of the Mo Salah Man United goal.
On the outside, the writing says, "Now you're going to believe us. We're going to win the league."
Fantastic.
With the picture, but
absolutely.
A lot of really, really important goals. But I remember I was in the pub again one night, and I hadn't seen some of my friends in a while because you remember we played Arsenal at Anfield, and we were winning 2-0. Joel Matip scored a goal, a header, and then Mo scored a penalty. Got brought down, or no, didn't get actually brought down. Sideshow Bob grabbed him and pulled his jersey back, and he took a really, really great penalty. But then there was a ball cleared up, a kind of a quick clearance from the edge of our box to Mo and Sideshow Bob on the halfway line, and he spun him. And I tapped my friend on the shoulder. I said to him, "This is a goal." As soon as he turned him, And he went running on, slotted it past the goalkeeper. And my friend turned to me and
Yeah,
said,
it was.
yeah. He said, you knew. He said, we just knew.
He was running for about 5 minutes before putting it in, but you were absolutely right. There was no doubt.
Just knew straight away once he got past your man.
Totally.
He should have been sent off anyway, I think, that day. But yeah, so many goals. The 2 goals against Roma in the first leg of the semi-final, the year we got beat.
That's what I was going to say.
Against Alisson. He scored a curler against Alisson in the corner, like the goal against Everton. It was probably more in the corner than the Everton one even. And then Bobby
it's the most in the corner shot I've ever seen. I've never seen anyone else hit the top corner, the inside of the frame of the goal, and it go in. It's absolutely amazing. You've seen him hit the top corner and go out. That's happened a few times in my watching football. But for any team in the world ever to actually hit the top corner, the actual top corner, I couldn't even do it in FIFA, and I was cheating all the time. But anyway,
the second goal,
there were so many. The second goal,
when Bobby played him through, and Ali was coming running out, and he just flicked it over the top of him into the goal.
Yes,
it was
of course,
beautiful goal,
sublime. There are so many sublime moments. Do you remember when Steve Cook, basically from Bournemouth, hacked at his Achilles, and he still managed to score from an incredible angle, despite the fact that
that bullet against Chelsea into the top corner.
Yes, so many of them. He's done the sublime. He's done the ridiculous. We have to finish, unfortunately, because I've got other things to do. I've got to work. I've got a job. Good Lord. We could be here all day. We've only got as far as the beginning of talking about, well, the end of 1819, I suppose. We talked a little bit about that. But anyway, we haven't done enough. We haven't done them enough justice. As Mr. Boombastic said in the comments, I think the Mount Rushmore of Liverpool Football Club added a new face when he broke Robbie Fowler's record. He is deified in Liverpool's history now. And that's absolutely brilliantly put. Absolutely wonderful. Yes, he is. He is indeed. And, we can just look back and smile and go through his best goals and find lists of the records he's broken and just marvel at our Egyptian genius. Mo Salah, the Egyptian king, the angel, the God himself. Yes, Nigel?
Allah wears Mo Salah pajamas.
Yes, okay. It may be true. Who knows? Thank you very much, Nigel and Alan and Brian. It's been a marvelous time to reminisce with you, and thank you to everybody in the chat and everybody listening at home. This has been Kop On podcast. We'll be back after the Bournemouth game. Be difficult, very tough one after the big high of beating Man United 7-0. We have to be very, very, very.
Did we beat them 7-0? I didn't catch the game. What was the score?
It was against. I think it was against Manchester United at Anfield, and we won 7-0.
7,
not 6, 7-0. Yeah, it's the biggest defeat in their history, and it's the first time since 1895, I think, that we scored 7 against them. When in that game too, 3 players scored braces and then we had one other scorer. So there you go, history repeating. It's absolutely nuts. 7 of them. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. Thank you, and take care. You'll never walk alone.